In this week's drive, we get in a spin down under, do the impossible in Italy, get hot and bothered in the desert, and watch the mountain goats of the motorcycle world. All this and more in this week's Drive. The build-up to the first Grand Prix of the Formula One season continued in Melbourne as the city's streets were turned into a mini racetrack. Tens of thousands of people gathered in the central business district to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the race's return to the Australian city. Two Minardis, one driven by team boss Paul Stoddart and a Williams piloted by test driver Antonio Pizzonia, thundered through the streets and executed a series of smoking spins, much to the delight of the crowds. Predictably, a few authorities complained that the cars had exceeded the speed limit. As ever, the team to beat this year seemed to be Ferrari. The Italian team enjoyed overwhelming domination last season, with Michael Schumacher sauntering to his sixth successive title, backed up by his faithful and capable wingman, Rubens Barrichello.
I think that the space that I earn in Ferrari today is as big as Michael. The respect that I have, and it was a difficult climbing. It was difficult since the beginning. The first couple of years have been quite difficult being a Ferrari driver with Michael there. Right now, I'm just proud to have Michael alongside because I've often been compared to the best, but I'm giving my best, and I'm sure that the day that I feel that Michael is unbeatable is the day that I go home and stay with my family.
Minardi tried to gain an exemption for regulations introduced for the new season so that they could race last year's car, going as far as a court injunction, which may yet have ramifications for Australian rounds of all World Championships.
Well, in terms of, I think all the hoo-ha a couple of years ago about, will Minardi survive, that's all gone now. I mean, there are 10 teams in Formula One and we're all going to survive, and that's the good news story. Perhaps the current controversy, because there always seems to be some, sadly, is that we've got regulations in this year, came in somewhat late. They weren't necessarily brought in the way they would normally be brought in, and as a result of that, many teams have had to build what's called interim cars. Minardi simply doesn't have the budget to do these things.
The first 19-race Formula One season started with the Australian round, where several new faces made their Formula One debuts, including Patrick Friesacher, who turned out for Minardi. His experience is very limited.
I've done one test last Saturday in Imola, and that was it. So it's not pretty much.
How did it feel?
It feels quite good, but I mean, I just need laps and laps to get confident in the car. But until now, it's getting each lap better and better.
He finished last. His teammate, Dutchman Christian Albers, also a GP rookie, drove a Works Mercedes in the German Touring Car Championships. Jordan's all-rookie lineup of Portugal's Tiago Monteiro and India's Narain Karthikeyan, his country's first Formula One driver, finished 15th and 16th, surprising many with their commitment, pace and reliability under pressure.
Well, I've been racing for 5, 6, 7 years in the top level in Formula 3 and so on. So there is only one Indian driver, so there has always been pressure, but I'm used to it by now, so I should be okay.
Jordan say this season will be about trying to finish races and picking up the odd point. Karthikeyan has triggered Formula One fever in India, while Monteiro knows the significance of his first Grand Prix.
Well, yeah, it's a big moment, really. Everything's been happening very quickly, and even though you work hard for so many years, you don't really realize until you actually get in the plane to come to Melbourne. That's when when it strikes you. And obviously you get here, you see everything getting ready, you see your name on the board, they give you a pass, so now things get taking shape, and you realize that you're there. But apart from that, it's just you need to get focused and do your work like you did in the other series.
Eddie Jordan's team, bought by Russian-born Canadian businessman Alex Schneider, will become Midland next year. The team will adopt a Russian flavour and drop its rock and roll image.
We want to portray the progressive image that Russians have today, that modern, intelligent and successful.
The team was launched in Moscow's Red Square, which was a bit of a temperature and culture shock.
I think that what Roman Abramovich did for soccer, I think it's great. He's a very good businessman, and really what he accomplished is incredible. Formula One is a different sport than soccer. And Formula One, even if you spend a lot of money very fast, not necessarily that you will have positive results. We see it from a number of teams that have recently entered the sport with very big budgets, that they weren't able to achieve very good results right away.
Plans to bring a race to Moscow have failed before, but Formula One Supremo Bernie Ecclestone is reportedly now keen to launch a Russian Grand Prix in St. Petersburg, which is Schneider's birthplace. Snow is an unusual sight for Formula One stars, except when they're skiing, but there was plenty of it around when Ralf Schumacher christened Toyota's newly built Fuji Speedway in Japan. The 4.6-kilometre circuit at the base of Mount Fuji is vying to take over from Honda's aging Suzuka circuit in central Japan when its license expires at the end of next year. The new track boasts a 1.5-kilometre main straight, the longest in the world. Although his brother Michael won 13 of 18 races last season, Ralf believes competition will be tighter this year.
To come on the podium could be a realistic goal for us this year. I doubt the fact that we have to wait and see how the season develops. I mean, in previous years we had only Ferrari up there and the rest pretty, weak and inconsistent. This year we got Renault, McLaren and Ferrari pretty strong. So it's going to be a really tough season for us from that point of view. So as I said, I hope from mid-season we can score 1 or 2 podium finishes. And I think if we achieve that, then it has been a great season for us.
Australia's only current Formula One driver, Mark Webber, was hard at work for sponsors before the race. The down-to-earth Williams driver treated Australia's Foreign Minister, Alexander Downer, to a fast few laps in the BMW road car around another local track. Even if he shrugs off the hype, the 28-year-old driver's reputation is out of all proportion to his results on the track. Webber has so far finished no higher than 5th place in his Formula One career, on an emotional debut with Minardi in Melbourne in 2002 and again this year. Given that the team won the last race of last year and that the Ferraris were marginalised, Williams might have hoped for better than Webber's 5th and Nick Heidfeldt's retirement after colliding with Michael Schumacher. In contrast, BMW was guaranteed a win in the celebrity support race, which featured identical 1 Series models. Meanwhile, the man that Webber displaced at Williams, Colombian Juan Pablo Montoya, was out doing much the same thing, chauffeuring guests around the seaside Phillip Island track. Ironically, last year he was doing the same thing in luxurious BMWs when he was driving for BMW Williams. He won the season-closing Brazilian Grand Prix for Williams and had high hopes after his move to McLaren, but finished 6th, behind the team he left. His teammate, Kimi Räikkönen, was even further back, collecting a solitary point for 8th place, 4.6 seconds behind Montoya. If you're offered a low-mileage CLK Mercedes cheap, you should look for molten rubber under the rear guards. The next Grand Prix in Malaysia sees engines run for a second race weekend for the first time. But F1 boss Bernie Ecclestone isn't concerned by suggestions that racing is still boring.
What about the new rule changes? What do they mean from a spectator's point of view for the new season? Is Formula One going to be more exciting?
When you write regulations, it's difficult to know what is going to happen because you don't know what the teams will do. The single tyre, I'm not so sure whether I think it's a good thing or not. Again, we'll have to wait and see. People think that it will be good because at the moment when people can change tyres and refuel, it's like 2 races because they've set their car, where this will be back a little bit in the old days where the good drivers that preserve their cars and preserve their tyres, somebody like Prost would be ideal for this situation. And I'm quite sure that Schumacher will, adapt and adopt very easy to this, which is a shame actually, but that's how it is. The other regulations, no, the cars initially will be slower, but nobody will know. It's a matter of fact that Michael and Ferrari are winning races, a lot more races than all the others, obviously. But if you look at all sport, You always get a superstar, it doesn't matter what it is. In tennis, we've had Federer recently, won everything. I think he won 15 tournaments, then lost one. And the good thing then is that people are waiting, who can beat him? I mean, people are looking now, who's going to beat Michael? So I would hate to see a different winner of every race. You need to build superstars, and for the superstars to get knocked off.
So the onus is on the other teams.
Absolutely. They've all got the same regulations. They're not in favour of Ferrari or against anybody. They're all the same. It's a case of doing the best you can with those regulations.
They haven't got all got the same money, though, have they? Which is another thing that's often used against Ferrari, that because of their wealth, they're a dominant force within the sport, that they have undue influence over the sport.
I should think the people that have got the largest budgets in Formula One at the moment are Toyota, BAR with Honda. Let's go down the list. Probably then Mercedes, then Ferrari, and then maybe BMW with Williams. I'm pretty sure that the end of 2006, that Michael will retire. Probably the whole group of people that have led Ferrari to the dominance that they've got will be retiring. So you will see a different Ferrari, completely different Ferrari.
And other teams emerging and becoming dominant in their turn.
Absolutely. I mean, Ferrari didn't win a World Championship for 20 years. And it was, who were winning? McLaren and Williams. Nobody complained.
Besides Renault's strong showing, surprise of the opening round was David Coulthard's fourth place for what was Jaguar. He'll be pleased to have beaten both his old teams, Williams and McLaren. International Motorsport arrived in Pakistan with the launch of their A1 Grand Prix team in Lahore. President Pervez Musharraf joined a list of heads of state, including South African President Thabo Mbeki and President Emil Lahoud of Lebanon, who've endorsed the new series as the World Cup of Motorsport.
It is indeed a very unique privilege for me to be here, to be launching this A1 team Pakistan.
Driving force behind the series, Sheikh Maktoum of the UAE, showed the president over the car.
The very fact that we are one of the 23 countries, I think, to be participating shows that people have confidence in us, and it gives us a lot of confidence that the nation is on the rise. It has taken off economically, and therefore I think it augurs well for the future.
The series pitches national teams against each other, starting at Brands Hatch in September.
The Pakistan colours, green and white, will be there competing with all other nations, and that means a lot to me. Pakistan is competing for the first time in an international motorsport, and I'm proud to say that we're also the first country to announce our driver in the A1 Grand Prix series.
Nur Ali has already made his name in Formula Mazda in the US and is training hard for his first A1 race.
Representing A1 Team Pakistan means a lot to me. It is my honor to represent the first ever professional motorsports team that is being featured in the A1 Grand Prix series this fall.
Pakistan has no history of motor racing, but international businessman Arif Hussain believes his country is ready to embrace motorsport and the business opportunities it offers.
It is an opportunity for the country to take a new role on the world stage, to display the products of its industry, of its business, of its commerce. And most importantly, I think, it is a new hope and new excitement for the youth and new generation of Pakistan.
Some big businesses are getting behind the national team.
It is worthwhile to be associated with car racing, and I think A1 Grand Prix would do a great job for us.
With the Karachi stock market proving itself one of the world's best performers and exports estimated to reach $14 billion by the end of the year, Pakistan's business community is enthusiastic about the potential of international motorsport to reach a wider international audience. For a country that has sometimes found it difficult to market itself outside of its own national boundaries, the A1 Team Pakistan car provides a powerful means of communicating the brands and aspirations of Pakistan's increasingly vibrant business sector. Traffic in Lahore came to a standstill when, amid high security, the A1 Team Pakistan car ran on Lahore's main boulevard, a road more used to motorised rickshaws and bicycles to give the country a glimpse of the excitement A1 Grand Prix has to offer. With a number of countries involved in A1 Grand Prix growing steadily towards the planned total of 25 national teams, it was announced in Pakistan that neighbouring India will also join A1 Grand Prix to race from September 2005 onwards. The Australian team, headed by 1980 Formula One world champion Alan Jones, will be announced at the end of March. A fleet of identical cars is being built at Lola in England. They'll be powered by Zytec Racing V8 engines. Second round of the NASCAR season took place at the California Speedway. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger was on hand to wave the green flag which started the race. Kyle Busch, younger brother of Kurt, led from pole position, making it the first lap led in his brief career. He would finish 21st, a lap down. The first of 7 caution flags came out on lap 23 when Bill Elliott crashed into the wall and ended his race. Elliott will be 50 in a few months' time. Dale Earnhardt had a difficult day with the first of 2 flat tyres on lap 59. He finished in 32nd place. The 5th caution of the day came out on lap 167 when Casey Kane lost control of his car and hit the wall hard. The crash also ended his day at the track.
Caution is out. Kane has tagged the wall and hard. He may have got a little...
With 48 laps to go, Michael Waltrip blew an engine which knocked him out of the race. 8 of the 43 starters blew up their engines.
Michael Waltrip, one of those guys, didn't run well in the Daytona 500, was hoping for a...
12 laps later, Jason Leffler also fell victim to engine failure. He and Waltrip fell back to finish in 37th and 38th places respectively.
Up in smoke. Funny how they blow up where you're going right.
Greg Biffle moved into the lead on lap 228, and on the final lap it was Biffle out in front with a battle for second between Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch. Johnson held off Busch on the inside of the final turn, but neither could catch Biffle, who took the checkered flag by just 0.2 of a second. Biffle, who won the 2004 season finale in November, ran strongly throughout the 250 laps. The race lasted for 3.5 hours, and Biffle averaged almost 140 miles an hour. It was the 4th series victory of Biffle's career, and he earned $288,000 for the win. Jimmy Johnson was second, while Kurt Busch finished 3rd, keeping the points lead. Round 2 of the Middle East Rally Championship started at Bahrain's International Circuit, the first Formula One track in the Middle East. 30 cars started the 2-day event. Sheikh Khalid Al Qasimi, fastest on stage 1, led until the 5th stage, forced to run 3 stages in 3rd gear. Nasser Salih Al Attiyah of Qatar and his co-driver Chris Patterson had problems. First a troublesome windscreen wiper, and after the rain stopped, a puncture. Despite this, by the end of the first day, they'd built a lead of nearly a minute. Qatari Khalifa Al Attiyah was 3rd in the championship after the opening leg in the UAE, but his Bahrain rally was to end in disappointment after a low-speed first stage rollover. An engine fire destroyed Ibrahim Bousmati's Mitsubishi Lancer on the first day. Luckily, there were service crews nearby who were able to put out the fire, but the car was extensively damaged. Nasser Al Attiyah began the second day's 8 gravel stages south of Manamah with a 59-second advantage over Al Qasimi, the reigning Middle East Rally champ. The UAE's Sheikh Sulhal bin Khalifa Al Maktoum, meanwhile, had closed to within 2 seconds of Al Qasimi. After Al Qasimi clawed 9 seconds back on the 9th and 10th stages, the event developed into a game of cat and mouse, and there was to be a thrilling finish with Al Attiyah taking a 47-second advantage into the final 3 stages. Al Maktoum drove like a man possessed to set the overall fastest time in the Riffa stage and moved ahead of Al Qasimi by 5 seconds with just 2 stages remaining. The battle for second continued through the final 2 stages and all the way to the finish line. Ultimately, though, it was Al Qasimi who edged it ahead of Al Maktoum. Al Attiyah sealed overall victory once again, this time by a margin of 32 seconds, which keeps him securely on top in the overall standings. The next round of the FIA Regional Series will be the Muscat-based Rally Oman in mid-April. The World Indoor Trials Championship continued with the Italian Grand Prix in Milan. Tony Bowe impressed on the qualifying lap, outperforming all the stars in the field. The 18-year-old Spaniard started badly and conceded a maximum 5 penalties on the first of 7 sections, but dropped only 1 more point on the rest of the course. Bowe was out of his depth in the 3-man final, conceding 34 points, but reaching the podium for the first time in his World Championship career was a great experience for the young rider. Albert Kabastani has claimed second place in 4 of the last 6 rounds and has yet to finish outside the top 4 this season. And the Spaniard was 17 points adrift of reigning champion Adam Raga at the top of the standings going into the weekend. Kabastani just edged out compatriot Hironi Fajardo to reach the finals, despite dropping maximum penalties on each of the first 3 sections. The Sherco rider ending with 19 points to Fajardo's 21. Meanwhile, Raga cruised into the final lap with 9 penalty points and moved into a commanding position in the decider when Kabastani and Bowe both dropped 6 points over the first 2 sections. Bowe continued to make costly mistakes, but Kabastani suddenly hit form while Raga began to wobble. Raga fought back in a head-to-head double lane race against Kabastani though, which he won to open a 2-point lead. Raga dropped a single point on section 7, and both he and Kabastani finished with 9 points on the final lap, so the Grand Prix was decided by a 2-section playoff. Both riders dropped a maximum 5 points in the first section and none at the second, but Gas rider Raga outpaced his rival and claimed the honours by virtue of having covered the second section in a faster time. So, Raga has made it 7 wins in as many rounds, but can he maintain his impressive run at retaining his world crown in the Portugal Grand Prix in Lisbon? While Raga has some breathing space at the top, things are far from decided lower down, and any of the top 6 could still take the title. And finally, we stay in the beautiful Italian city for the 5th round of the International Freestyle Motocross Night of the Jumps event. Belgian Jimmy Verbeau won the highest air contest with a leap of 6.8 metres from Derek Berlou, while the multi-skilled Matt Ribot was 3rd ahead of home favourite Massimo Bianconini, who clinched the best whip contest. In the freestyle contest, the night belonged to Andre Villa. His Holyman, Heart Attack, Rock Solids and Big Gap combos showed he was ready to take on the big guns and standing leaders, Ribot and Sebastian Volter. A turnaround for the Norwegian, who just 8 months ago was considering quitting freestyle motocross competition after missing the cut at the qualifier in Bern in Switzerland. However, 2 weeks ago he racked up a 3rd and a 2nd in Vienna. The Norwegian rookie fired out a perfect run, outgunning Swiss Matt Ribot for a nail-biting win. Ribot performed rock solid and tsunami stunts to claim 2nd place with 289 points. The number 1 seed, Aelo Gaup, also from Norway, sat out the event on Saturday but is expected to be ready to make his return in round 6. 3rd in the final was Sebastian Basti Volter of Germany. 4th was American Derek Berlou. 5th, Nick de Wit of South Africa. And 6th was another rookie, Martin Karen of the Czech Republic. Bianconini and Alvaro de Fara finished 9th and 12th in the main event in front of a packed audience of their screaming fellow countrymen. But happiest of all was Villa. So, whether you're trying to give up smoking, experiencing the ups and downs, or just battling a crash habit, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.